you or some of you know, we've been setting up these CITI monthly meetings to really help continue to share in the vision and mission of what CITI is here for. We're trying to really improve that innovation, translation, and optimization of the delivery of care within our trust. But also it's a great opportunity at these monthlies to really share between the groups what we're doing, share updates, success stories, learnings, and continue to meet this kind of big family that's growing almost on a monthly basis. And I know many of you were probably expecting that we were going to do a bit more of that today, but we could have missed the opportunity of taking advantage of having some good friends of mine visiting from California, Jim and Ed, and I'll do a quick intro in a moment. One of the best things about CITI is that we're constantly interested in thinking outside of the box, thinking laterally, exposing ourselves to what's happening with different groups and different teams, whether it's in the UK, in Europe, or even internationally. And between all of us, we're able to have that network that enables us to pull in that learning and to share that learning to hopefully, drive the uniqueness and the incredible work that the team here is delivering. And so with that, we've been very fortunate over the last, I want to say almost a year. Lawrence and I have been having multiple conversations with Cedars-Sinai. As many of you know, a world-class organization, healthcare system out in California in the US, and they have multiple international sites as well. Of course, they have a shared love for Tottenham Hotspurs, but that's a different discussion for a different time. But through that, we've also identified that we have a shared ethos and vision around how we deliver care, but how we innovate and translate that care at the front line as well. They are, of course, a few years ahead of us in building that innovation accelerator muscle. But through this collaboration, we've been spending a lot of time learning and seeing how do we sort of bring together their learnings to our side of the pond, and how do we accelerate our ability to scale in the way that they have. And we've been very fortunate that they've actually made the trip over to the UK to spend some time with us, to do a bit of whiteboarding and a workshopping session yesterday. We've got a bit more to do today. And we thought, wouldn't this be a great opportunity to share what, their visit with all of you as well. So we kind of hijacked the CITI Monthly. We've delayed the presentations that were due today to next month. So thank you those who were flexible. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Jim and Ed from Cedars-Sinai. They have really built a world-class tech transfer innovation mechanism. And for anyone who's looked online at their Cedars-Sinai accelerator, you will see that. But I don't want to take up too much of the time. I really want you to hear from them. And I would encourage you to really capture some questions that you'd like to ask. We want to have a really good Q&A session after this. And you can also pick up some one-on-one time. They're going to be here for the morning, so you can do that as well. And I know we invited some members of our broader clinical teams and clinical group teams, like Nige, I see here, and others in the audience. So thank you for giving up your mornings to be with us today. So over to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So now I feel bad. I've kicked people away, but thank you. I'm Jim Lohr. I'm the Vice President for Intellectual Property at Cedars-Sinai, and the cautionary tale I give you is what I'm going to describe is primarily the result of being at the same organization for over 30 years. If you stick around the place for long enough, they give you all the things that nobody else wants to do. So what I'm going to try to do is give you an idea of what has been our unique journey in trying to deal with the same things that every academic institution has to deal with, trying to improve the state of affairs for patient care, the tools that clinicians have in order to be able to do better for their patients and be more cost efficient, more efficient in general. And I'm going to do a few things. I don't know if any of you guys are like big on US health system, so I'm going to just touch on the medical center and our health system, the IP company, which is our tech transfer office, basically, the Cedars-Sinai Accelerator, which is another thing that touches on the innovation arc, and then Health Ventures, which is basically our venture fund. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This is our campus. It looks like it just got dropped in from outer space, but it's basically a 1,000-bed hospital. It has a charitable-driven mission. It's a nonprofit. We're all about healthcare services, research, training nurses and doctors of the future, and improving health of the community. And we view health in the community as a sort of a global thing. We love to brag about how everybody thinks we're so wonderful. We know we're wonderful, but it's nice to have others say, wow, you guys are really great. What I wanted to point out is we're ranked in 11 specialties, and And one of the lessons that I learned working at a hospital and forgetting to get my MD on the way to law school is you should pay attention to your areas of excellence, because those are the areas where opportunity are. Those are the areas that you're going to find the natural interest of industry in sort of helping lift your IP out of your pocket so they can go make money. So you need to be aware of your strengths. So some of our biggest successes come out of these areas, and I didn't have to figure it out on my own. Others told me. You know, you can read numbers, gives you an idea. One of the most important things about this is we're a relatively small institution, but we are extremely sort of driven by our focus on making medicine better. So for an institution, $213 million a year of research is what I have to work with in creating new IP. $200 million spent a year isn't going to give a lot of IP. So as you go through this with me, I'll show you how we're making about $40 million a year in annual income off of that $200 million engine. You might go, oh my God, I want that magic. We also have a equity portfolio on our spinoffs of about $300 to $400 million, depending on the mood of the stock market. But again, that gives you, I hope that you can start with something small and really find ways to maximize the value out of your portfolio or your smart people. Cedars-Sinai is not just a thing, we've conquered the world. So this map isn't very helpful for those of you who don't live in Los Angeles, but this is Los Angeles. The airport is down here. But basically, the idea is we started 100 years ago as a one-stop hospital. We didn't have all of this. And in order to survive in the United States, you have to become something for everybody. And in order to become something for everybody, you have to be convenient for everybody. So it's the idea of trying to be convenient for the patients, because we're very cranky and we don't want to drive anywhere, basically, is the. So I want to spend a minute.
Could you go back?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So one of the things that's unique about Cedars, Cedars is Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, which Jim showed the numbers on. You have a larger health system. So there's about 5 hospitals, rehab hospitals that have become part of it, physicians that are associated with it. But it is unique in the United States that it is not owned by the state, UCLA. It's not part of a university, USC. It basically is a standalone hospital that has its roots going back to hospitals that Cedars-Sinai did in 1976. So we have a reporting structure that makes it very, very simple, because everything that Jim talked about is owned under one leadership team, which makes it very, very simple. We talked earlier yesterday about some of the complexities that you all have. It makes it very simple for Jim, who basically reports to the CFO, who reports to the CEO of the organization. That gets things done very, very quickly. There's a lot of different locations, but we've got the clinical, like you have in a trust, where the non-academics and the academic in the center.
Yeah, that is a very important point. And one of the things that we've been able to do, because of that very sort of short reporting line, I have a lot of ability to try things out and fail. And so one of the lessons that I always want to emphasize isn't that, wow, look how wonderful we are, we're making money. It's more of, we've done a lot that didn't work, and you guys can really take advantage of a later starting point by saying, oh good, let's not do this, let's figure out how that might work here, and really take advantage of the cautionary tale. So this is really my empire. Innovation support is basically what the VP for intellectual property does. So I mentioned these 3 sort of names at the beginning. So Cedars-Sinai Intellectual Property Company is basically the tech transfer. It's very early stage. It's like before, it's the great idea in the clinic. It's the, oh my God, look at this test tube. I'm not a scientist. You'll notice all my references are very not scientific, but what we do is basically provide that initial look at intellectual property. Is there a market for this? Does somebody want to pay more for your mousetrap? Is it going to be better, cheaper, faster? Because if it's not those, I don't want to spend any money on it. So I'm the vice president for wet blankets as well. I'm always telling the faculty, I can only help you get something in the market if the market wants it. You have to be really sort of focused because you have limited resources, limited people, and they will start to respect you if you speak from a position of knowledge that they need to learn from. When I send someone away, they have a game plan of when they should come back. You know, take your lousy idea, bring it over here, and then we have something interesting. This then is the world of biotech. This is new diagnostics. This is that sort of world. The next area I'm responsible for is the accelerator. We use the word accelerator to mean taking an already established company with already the MVP, a bit of sales maybe, a real live staff, not working at Starbucks and running the company. They really need to be full-time engaged. They can't be 1 foot in the clinic, 1 foot in the company. They really got to be in the company. And then we can help accelerate their sort of, kickoff. So one of the things we like to do is help companies fail faster. So the idea go, well, that's a very unpleasant way to do things. But healthcare is so complicated. When people come in and try to solve problems for us, they don't know how complicated our world is. They're like, I saw a movie once about doctors, and so I've got this great idea for you. And so helping them fail means they won't spend their money on something nobody wants. So investors love that we're those kind of people. The accelerator is focused outwardly, while my IP company is inwardly. I'm looking in the brains, the test tubes, the couches, the refrigerators on campus. This is looking for smart people from outside who are solving problems we have as healthcare providers. So much more computer systems, much more widgets or apps. Where is that lost wheelchair, for example? We want to be more efficient, better patient outcomes, higher happiness levels. And so this part of the journey is focused here. The venture fund, we don't invest on this side. This is where we see things are already going. Cedars-Sinai is looking to become a customer of that. So I don't have to be smart and know which is better, the Betamax or the VCR. I don't know if anybody knows that, right? But there are two things. I just know that my chief of surgery wants the VCR, even though I know the quality is better in Betamax. She will tell me that that's the one that they want to have at our hospital. We'll invest in that to have a voice at the table. Our investment needs to be checks between $3 and $7 million, working up to 15 million as the series go. We want to own 10 to 12% of the company so that when we help make them successful by slapping Cedars-Sinai seal of approval on it, and us calling to brag to all of our college roommates about how we've got the best system ever in our surgery department, we'll help make that company successful, and then we bring those monies back into the charity. So this is the journey that how we chop things up. And I swear I'm not going to spend as much time on each slide as I did on this, but I think it's really important to see that there's distinct ways that we interact with innovation. But as Ed always likes to tell me, this is a very beautiful, perfect world I live in. It's not really that way. So we're flexible enough to know that sometimes there's something here that I feel really passionate about. It's going to really change medicine. The key opinion leader is like on his way to a Nobel Prize. I may want to invest in that company here. I may want to get a 50% interest. The technology may be at a different institution, because remember my lousy $200 million research engine? I need to find other people's great technology. So sometimes we break these rules.
We actually want them to break the rules when there's good ideas. It's part of the process of being innovative and entrepreneurial. It's fine, you've got boxes, but let me know if there's ever a good idea, and we will find a way of dealing with that.
And I think that's also a good way of then being able to teach yourself how to deal with the unique situation, so then you can do more of those. So one of the problems we have is we don't know how to deal with every technology because there's just so much innovation going on in healthcare. So we limit ourselves to what we're going to be focusing on so that we don't go insane, disappointing people when we can't keep up with them because they're leaders in their field. So this gives you an idea of, I'm interested in everything except this. I mean, I personally am interested in wellness and fitness apps. I've got my Apple Watch on and everything. But as far as what we think our clinicians and our administrators can really bring value to are these areas. And I want to be working with companies where I'm not just bringing money to the table, because dumb money is, there's more money in the world than God intended. But what we bring is our knowledge and our expertise, are smart people. And if we can bring money and smart people, we can really charge these companies to the point where it really transforms them into power that they wouldn't have otherwise. And it's so funny, I was on vacation for 2 weeks. I did this slide deck so I'm learning, and I'm going, oh my God, what's next? So I'm not sure what I was thinking here, but this is a visualization that I use with my team to try to keep a focus on where we're at in the journey. And so de-risking is what our work is all about. It's helping things be worth more, because industry doesn't want to give academics money for things that are going to fail. I don't know if you've heard all about the great cancer breakthroughs for rats that all of a sudden don't translate into people. No one wants those anymore. So you have to prove that they work in humans. You've got to take that extra work. So my group needs to learn how to do budgeting, provide seed funding, project management, do the service contracting with the CROs, and do the actual transaction, manage those relationships. And that's hard. This is the stuff that academics don't do a lot of. This is the part where you've really got to, what's the best way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So you have to just do these one at a time. We focus on these 3 areas primarily: diagnostic, therapeutics, and digital, because we can't be everything to everybody. And then we just push it through to then. That's where I talk about our $40 million a year income, our $300 to $400 million equity. We get that feedback, or that reward. So I've been blathering about my numbers. Here's my numbers. And so this basically gives you a snapshot of our drag sheet. But one of the other things that this triggers me to tell you about is our business unit. So one of the things that we've found is a lot of people want to have a spin-off company. Yay, let's have a spin-off company. I want to be a CEO. And we try to talk them through the 12 stages of grief, fear, anger, denial. That's a really quick way to go bankrupt. And then you lose your technology, and people are sad, and you lost your job, and oh, what about your kids? So what we have done is we've created these within my nonprofit world. I just made them up. My office is on 3rd Street. I'm very inventive. So 3rd Street Technology. So I do pre-spin-offs. We create a business plan. We provide little seed funding. We use the money at Cedars-Sinai at a cheaper rate because I'm a nonprofit, paying for nonprofit, as opposed to the spin-off has to pay grown-up charges and healthcare and all that stuff. So I'm able to give our faculty the confidence that we're taking things seriously, but I'm in the driver's seat. There's no shareholders, there's no venture funds, and then these create those spin-offs that are worth more, that then venture funds have. I go to more lunches with venture funds now than I ever have, because they want to know what's coming out of my business units, because they know they're baked. They're not half-baked, they're baked. And so we've been very successful with bringing things through, I don't want to call it pretend, it's just pre-spin-off, and help the faculty get excited about them without having to make them step away from their white lab coats.
Can you do a Prometheus example?
Oh, that's a good example. Well, if I had a drink, I'd tell you more, but so Prometheus is the life work of a gastroenterologist at Cedars-Sinai for like 40 years. He's the grandfather of IBD in differentiation between Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, thank you, and has created the tools by which to differentiate not only the conditions, but also the treatments that will be effective for those. Before, it was like take this for 2 weeks and let us know. It didn't work? Okay, now take these pills of poison. How those work? So it's been breakthrough or quality of care, but we've also then, through the collection of 40 years of patient samples with annotations and longitudinal outcome data, we've been able to identify drug targets. And we licensed out the drug targets when they were already baked. So the company that took them, Prometheus Biosciences, had an IPO based on the pipeline from our office into the company, and they're now over $1 billion in market cap, and we own about
30 something.
Yeah, so we are very happy with that outcome. But the example that Ed wanted me to point out is when you know you've got gems of unique things within your institution, you focus on those and you don't have to wonder what they are. It's what industry is already collaborating with them. They're already trying to steal the asset from you. You know when you get a contract that's like, wow, they're going to give us a box of test tubes and take all the IP. I better look at this one more closely.
So let me step back a little bit. So Prometheus Biosciences was the win.
Oh, you want to tell that side of the story.
10 years ago, 15 years ago, the scientist decided he was going to create a company.
Yes.
Lost $20 million. Totally failed. Because we had a time frame at Cedars where originally Jim and I spent a lot of time and ended up moving to the academic side. And the controls and the business processes, they're very, very smart people. It just didn't work as well. It's anybody that wanted something to get something. And then we got back to us. So they lost money. We basically spun the company off, as Jim had said, picked a great management team, told the researchers, I tell the story that they had to call security to my office because when I told the researchers and his two coworkers that I was not looking at starting a company again, they actually were screaming and yelling in my office. They're very happy now because they got some stockholders from it. And we invested about $39 million over a period of time. So it didn't fall into the technology ventures where you just license things. It didn't fall into the accelerator, and it didn't fall into our venture. It basically kind of fell in between because it was a really good idea. And yeah, they went out for $1 billion IPO. Originally, the shares were $19. As of Friday, they're $56. And we've got about a $300 million share of that, which is the best one we've had. But we've got a lot of ones we can talk about. But it's the idea that you can't just look at your bucket and say nothing else is there. It allows Jim, because of we talk the streamlined reporting mechanism of getting good ideas funded pretty easily.
Yeah, the way Ed usually describes it is he manages my work by giving me enough rope to hang myself, but also helping me not get there. And it's really that ability to try things out and do things differently. And I guess that's what I'm encouraging you guys to use this wonderful starting point to figure out, well, what are the great things we already have? And let's figure out how to do more of that and then bring everything else up with it. Because people want to work with you when they hear that the people you've worked with before are now driving around in new Ferraris. They're like, I like that new Ferrari. And they're like, oh, well, we're working with the Tech Ventures group. They're doing this, they're doing that. And so proving with people who see your value will be the easiest way to create a program that people want to engage with. So now, so Cedars has I think, a bit of an advantage. We had a lot of success before tech transfer happened. So the board of directors realized that clinicians can actually create things of value. The Swan-Ganz catheter was invented at Cedars-Sinai. The clinicians sold it to industry for $10,000 and were like, woohoo, until they found out that it's a multi-billion-dollar technology. And then everyone was all excited that Cedars must be making money hand over fist. We got zero. So then they established the policy, and we got lightning striking twice. We had viral inactivation of factor VIII for treatment of hemophiliacs, and then that was a great moneymaker. So we started with money coming in. So people let me alone because they felt like, oh, there must be something out there. It's very difficult to start with we can make money out of this stuff when you don't have the example, because you have to spend money to protect these things, you've got to spend money to build your team. You've got to do all that stuff. But we've taken that legacy and we've sort of invested in ourselves, and we have brought now into the market a whole bunch of things that I won't bore you with. Global Alliance Program, I think I put in here because we also know, because of my complaint about our $200 million research engine, we need to partner with excellent institutions around the world to figure out how to do this together better. The example I gave yesterday was Queen Mary University had this amazing breakthrough technology, early stage detection of pancreatic cancer. They were going to start a company up. It was going to be a wonderful thing, except the company.
In the UK.
Yeah, oh yeah, Queen Mary, yeah. And they had a business plan, raise $5 million, go find a KOL, go do some clinical trials, go get some patient samples. We have at Cedars the leading pancreatic cancer expert in the world. We have the biggest amount of patient samples and the largest clinic. So I told my friend who ran the tech transfer office at Queen Mary, we can do this together without a spin-off company, and we'll share 50-50. So we're getting ready to release in January 2023, which is like already coming up, the completed test for the early stage cancer diagnostic for pancreatic cancer. And it's through this partnership, we're going to make a lot of money out of this academic partnership where the clinician inventor at Queen Mary was able to partner with her dream collaborator, the person that she's always admired for her entire professional life. It's a very heartwarming story. But anyway, so we do a lot of that. We're around the globe. We go blah, blah. Like I said, I was doing these slides and I was like, maybe they'll be. So I had talked about
the pancreatic cancer diagnosis for political people basically are diagnosed stage 1 and 2, opposed to usually 4. It's an amazing technology. And Jim, in part of the other issues is that because he's got relationships in Singapore, after they got work at Cedars, Singapore said, we want to be able to make the kits in Asia, so if you let us, we'll spend $2 million finalizing the project at our cost. All we want is the rights to make the test kits in Asia, primarily China. And then it comes back to us and Queen Mary.
Yeah, it's a great story. It's a great example of collaboration and how to go farther, faster when you have the right partners. So, like I said before, we can't be everything to everybody. So every 5 years, we sort of, I kid myself, things change so quickly. Every year, we sort of step back and say, what do we want to be excellent in? What do we want to be knee-deep in a market space? And so we've identified these 3 areas, these kind of technologies that we are currently collaborating with people to co-develop. We bring money to the table. We bring our project management, all that stuff that I was talking about before, and we make these technologies wherever they come from together. We've already been talking about how there's some obvious areas of overlap here with your institution, so we're going to have all sorts of good conversations following up, but this is an example of you need to focus. The accelerator, you might be wondering. So we created an accelerator not because Cedars has never been working with startup companies. We've been working with startup companies before there were startup companies. It's just a natural thing for new companies to want to engage with clinicians at excellent institutions. What we were finding is that our clinicians were giving of their time and their data and their expertise, and they were not getting any return or recognition for it, and neither was the institution. So we thought if we created a portal or a platform into the institution, we could help coordinate and manage the commitments, coordinate let's not use the word coordinate, protect the faculty so that they can be better engaged with the things they wanted to be engaged with. This is sort of the genesis of what we were doing. Again, looking outwardly to bring them into the institution. And it's helping the entrepreneurs help us be better at being a healthcare provider. The objectives, you can all read quickly before I click the slide, but it's the idea of, it's not only for the companies, it's the setup is really we're doing this, it's a money loser. You don't make money running an accelerator. It's to really help commit to excited entrepreneurs who want to make healthcare better, figure out if they can really be successful. And I want to say a good 50% are successful, which means a good 50% aren't. You might say, well, that's very depressing. The normal for a startup in healthcare, after 2 years, 1 in 10 is still alive and kicking, and alive sometimes is a bit giving them a lot of credit. So 50% isn't such a bad thing. But what we have done, yes, Dad?
Jim said that they lose money. Accelerators lose money based on our definition. And when we talked yesterday, we probably need to get our definitions in the same terms to be used. But number 5, one of the reasons we started this is saying, how do we make our organization think entrepreneurial? And our accelerator is right across the street from Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. When we have clinical people coming in for clinical ideas, we have nursing staff after their shift walk across the street to participate in the accelerator. What you could feel is after the first year, this different feeling about how do you think differently, how do you engage differently. You know, all of our various areas of quality improvement and process improvement, you can see a kick up on those, because this became an idea. Let's look at that. And it was fun for people who've never been involved in startups to basically say, yeah, we're out nursing. Hey, let's go over there at lunchtime. A physician say, let's go over there and take a look at that. Because Jim has said this, they picked the projects that they wanted to look at. And it's added to what we've done. So there's value there, even though the accelerator itself, if you look at just that square, is not profitable.
Yeah, you got to change your idea of what ROI is. The value back to the institution is immense, or else, of course, we wouldn't be doing it. But the idea of making money from the accelerator is, and I will get to the part where do we make the money. But another part of the accelerator it's become a living, breathing thing that the staff and the faculty view as a commitment of the institution to embrace change and to encourage new ideas and to bring them forward. And so I can't stand in line at the Starbucks for 5 minutes without somebody, oh my God, I got this great idea. And it's a really good way to sort of make people want to stay there. I mean, a lot of the excitement of, I want to start a company is all about, they feel like it means they have to leave. But if you give them a place they can go and find out, ooh, it's really hard being an entrepreneur. I think I'm going to keep my day job. You know, it's been very eye-opening to people. So what are we accelerating? So the idea is, let me use my good eye. So the idea is, I'm not doing a thing. I swear my job is to just stand around and wave my arms. But we really find out what the clinicians and administrators are looking, the problems they want solved. There are no shortage of problems in healthcare, newsflash. So if every great company that I ran into was brought into the medical center and nobody was budgeting for it or no one was interested in it at that moment, I would be wasting everybody's time, right? So if I know the chief nursing officer is going to be budgeting for a new nurse call system, and she's told me that she'd like to work with a new startup to do something new and innovative and maybe also do Sudoku on it. I don't know, I don't do ideas. But we bring in companies that are in that space, and then she wants to talk to them. It's not like I have to pull favors or sneak up on her in the line at Starbucks. So it's really, I get enthused executives.
There is a Starbucks inside.
Clearly.
Yes, my name is Jim. I have a problem. So, but you see that's also, people talk about an accelerator as I'm going to go out and find great companies and then it's magically going to help the institution. That's not how it works. Because institutions are run by people who have their own priorities, who are ready to spend money on things. You want the people with money. That's all, just be clear about that. And so the key for us isn't only what the institution needs, it's also the founders of the companies have made it clear that what they've been able to gain with access to the senior leadership, access through the program, access to feedback, access to potential investors, is it would have taken them years to get the same amount of value. And then, you know what entrepreneurs do? they are on social media, they're bragging, they're moaning, complaining. So we get the best applicants because we have that kind of feedback. No matter how fancy my logos are, my presentation, nobody wants to come to your stupid accelerator unless others who have been at it loved it. And this is our typical, and again, typical is typical, but not always the case. They have to be real. I think I emphasized this earlier. They can't be, I've got a great idea. It's like, get out of my office. They're about this. And of course, there's always exceptions, but this usually works best for us. And I do know the slide deck is living here with Sarah. If anybody is like, oh my God, I love slides, whatever, if there's no pride in any of this, well, there's a lot of pride in it. And so then this is a new slide for me. So what we try to look at is, where we try to get is here. Remember I talked about this was our early stage, our new test tubes, our great ideas. This is where we're in the accelerator. So you're getting alpha users, early feedback, beta users, you're on that journey, and then we can help you just sort of get ready to scale where then the market is ready for you and you can raise money because now you have a real live institution that people know the name of is validated what you're doing. It's just as simple as that. And you might wonder who comes to our accelerator. So I love the heat map. Some people said, it looks like somebody's bombing places, but it's not. It really shows you where the applications are sourced from. I think it gives you a really good indication that our program has done a good job of creating buzz in the entrepreneur community that our program is worth pursuing. The logo, I love random logos, but these are all institutions around the world that we have engaged with because their governments have particular programs to promote spin-offs and startups, and they send us the best and their brightest. And it's been really amazing. There's a lot of smart people around the world. And I hate this slide, I apologize. It makes it look like Australia and Poland are the same size, and Singapore is like some Pac-Man thing or a space invader. But this just visualizes the companies and where they've come from. And our bragging point is 83% of the companies that have completed the program are still active or they've been acquired. So again, turning that 1 out of 10 into 8 out of 10. I thought I'd mention Lantham. Lantham was a participant in our program pre-pandemic. Remember those days? And so they came to Cedars as a pretty well-baked company in the NHS system. And they were wondering, wow, could we really take our special sauce and make it work in the US? And so they came through and really opened our eyes to the fact that, because we always thought, oh, NHS is so different, it says, oh, but it really shows that there's that, as Nadine and I were talking about, there's this untapped opportunity to open up people's eyes to what you can do on both sides of the Atlantic. We love numbers, really successful. I think I have charts. I like charts better than numbers. So gray is companies fundraising pre-program. If you call that purple or aubergine, I don't know which one to call it, is post-program. So this is one way venture capitalists look at the success of their programs, or our program. As you can tell, class 1 many moons ago, so you can see better value there. But we've been particularly lucky with getting companies who we've made successful or set them up for success, and they've done really well. So let's see, is that class 6? So we're in class 8, so they haven't raised anything, but you get the idea.
So where is class 8 going? What happens at the end of class 8 this year?
At class 8, like where's the demo day?
Well, is there explain the demo day?
Oh yeah, so demo day is like graduation, and everybody gives their pitch and all that good stuff. So this year we're partners with Health HLTH, and we're going to be the first accelerated program who has had the opportunity to have their demo day at Health itself. So any participant at Health will be able to attend and ooh and ah and all that good stuff.
It's worth saying Health are launching their first European version. Health is a pretty big conference in, not next year, the year after in Amsterdam. So we can probably think about that.
And I should mention how I have a flat in Amsterdam I just bought last week that I can rent out for another. That's a different presentation. I'm here to make money. No. So again, another way to look at success.
Jim started his career as a lawyer in the Netherlands, and actually, he just bought something. It's true.
So if you'd like me to do my presentation in Dutch, beware. So another way we look at success is growth of the companies, right? So money is, it's just and our charitable mission, and I don't know about you guys, it's not growth of employment and tax base. It's just not our thing. But a lot of the local government loves to hear the statistics on growth of companies. I think this will also give a good indication of, growth of the companies post-program, which is the colored slide. It just, again, quickly visually, you can see growth.
Employees.
Yeah. Personnel, yeah. And so, we work with a lot of, I was going to talk to you about the Ministry of Defense. Yeah, something secret and exciting I'm doing with them. Not really secret and exciting. It's exciting, but not secret. And so it's, we have, the accelerator is in its own space. It's not within the hospital. It has its own vibe. It has a chandelier, which is a different story. But it's the idea that you're in a different place. You're away from work. It's literally across the street. And so for us, those realities of space and time and distance really play a part in being away from work. Everybody loves the press coverage. It's a wonderful thing. You might be wondering about our venture fund. So Health Ventures is the name for our venture activities. Again, we have been investing for many, many years. We've been primarily doing it off balance sheet, just as catch can. Very, I don't want to say amateur, but not really as a full-time day job. And then we woke up and decided, hey, if you're doing so well with it as a catch can, what if you really hired people who knew what they were doing? Because obviously I wouldn't know. The idea was to basically create it as a nonprofit entity that did investments and walked and talked and quacked like investment funds. So we invest like funds, we have ROI like funds, but it all comes into the charity, and so we don't pay income tax on it, which I don't know if it's the same thing over here. So it's a really great way to multiply the amount of money we bring back into the institution. We create the most value, we think, when a company's at Series A. So Series A basically is when you start a company, you're called pre-seed, and you're basically going to your mom and your aunt and your sister, hey, would you like to invest in my company? That's pre-seed. Seed is when you're sort of getting started, you're getting some interest, you get sort of your starting place. Seed, it's a seed. And then when you're ready to really get serious money and you're really showing growth, you're out of an accelerator program, for example, you're typically a Series A. So we think it's a young enough company, we can invest our 3 to 7 million and get that 10 to 12% in the company, so you can do the math for how much a valuation would be. And of course, we're opportunistic. Sometimes we do it a little sooner and sometimes later. But what we bring is our system feedback. So when the company gets an investment from Cedars-Sinai, they get then this accelerator-like access to our clinicians, our smart people, and all that stuff to, again, help them be successful in making their product work. And the point at which we're helping sometimes is post-accelerator, a company will come out, and I'll say like 1 or 2, right, Ed? We have 10 each class, 1 or 2 from each class we invest in. Because not everybody gets a trophy. It's, sad, but true. Everybody just can't. Because you have to be bringing a product that Cedars-Sinai wants to buy. If Cedars-Sinai is buying it, I want to be an investor because then we're going to make you successful. Check size, I talked about before, opportunistic, flexibility. Sometimes we lead, sometimes we don't. Since we are a nonprofit, we don't charge a management fee that we pay to the staff. It's all put back into the fund to to extend the amount of things we can invest in. No surprise what we invest in. I'm sure these are some of your favorite topics. And, oh my God, we made it to the end. So anyway, this picture is taken from the accelerator. So we're kitty corner, or I don't know if that's a word over here, across the crossways from
At an angle across.
At an angle, yeah. So that's why it's so easy for the staff to come over. That's why and I don't know, we also should have mentioned every Wednesday we have like pizza and beer, wine and cheese. So every Wednesday evening, and all the founders are there, so people can interact and mingle and people and all that stuff. And that's been like a Wednesday night thing. You know I do that, right? Okay. Because you're not allowed to have alcohol on campus. That would be wrong. But across the street. So anyway, again, I'm Jim Lohr. Thank you for being such a attentive audience, and all story open.
Thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed that presentation, not least because of the enthusiasm and energy, but I think also because, sometimes it's great to see what others do, because it reconfirms some of the things that we've been working on as well. If we think about what CITI stands for, that idea of that activation, that connection, that collecting, that sort of bringing that energy and catalytic effect to the front line, and how do we sort of catalyze that change, and how do we think big and be bold. But equally our thoughts around the venture. And if I look back to just before COVID, I think when Lawrence joined and we were sitting around these sort of whiteboards thinking, how are we going to sort of create this? How are we going to build this energy and this enthusiasm? We've got incredible assets across the organization, but they're all sitting in different buckets. Like if we really brought that in together, could we really create that change and that energy? We're not on Beverly Boulevard, but like we're in the South Bank, so your group is really good. And I think we're allowed alcohol here, I'm not sure. But this idea of bringing together the inward-looking, the collaborative-looking, but also the outward-facing is, I think, what we've managed to create. If we think about CITI, we think about KHP Ventures, how instantly they work together. Whilst they're two separate entities, we've got the whole KHP Ventures team here, we've got CITI and beyond, and the trust. I love the point that you made as well about exciting and enthusing staff. And I think when we look about, all the challenges that we see at the front line, everything that happened with COVID, sometimes these things and these opportunities that I think help us retain great members of the team, help them, realize that there's hope and there's, new things that we want to do, and that the leadership is excited about change and that they have permission to make that change as well. And I think, sometimes it's uncomfortable to talk about money and financials, but, we have to start thinking, when we think about the motto of the city, it's, better, faster, fairer healthcare. Underlying that is an element of how do we sort of build a more robust, cost-effective, revenue-generating engine that helps us treat more and do more with less to some extent, but also be a bit opportunistic and be a bit more commercially minded. And that's why we're so lucky to have the commercial innovation team now sitting at CITI as well. So I know we sometimes all kind of funny, cringe, but actually we have to get a bit more comfortable about having those conversations. So I'm glad you sort of pushed this out there as well too. I'd love to open up for Q&A. I could talk for hours, and I'm sure we could have many conversations, but even that slide of the buckets, I think we're really on that path, and I'm so excited, and we've got your deck, because we'll be building a similar deck as well. We're going to open up to questions. Edie, did I see your hand go up?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's fantastic. Just a question about partnerships, really. You gave the example of getting cancer tests, partnered with industry and manufacture.
Yeah.
What's your experience in partnering with industry players, established industry players, versus other institutions?
Yeah, that's a great question. So partnering with an academic sister institution, we're just in it for the same reason. It's just there's this immediate trust, and we're all going to do the right thing. So it is a different paradigm. However, with the commercial partner, it's very important to make them aware that you have something they want and that it's valuable. Because we tend to be very demure and very like, oh, you like my science in academia, because it's just to be recognized for your science is just such that's what you're here for. That's what your life is about. but you should not be shy about making sure you have a team member at the table, which usually is me. I tell the researcher, always keep your white lab coat on. Don't be the bad guy. You guys are going to have the relationship after I leave the room to go, that tall guy's an asshole. And it's okay because I'm there to protect your interests, and I'm not there for anything more than getting fair value for what we're bringing to the relationship. So what we've done, for example, is we've had many instances where people come up with new indications for existing drugs. So the drugs are patented by the industry player, but their patent is only on certain indications. So when we have a new breakthrough indication, new patent that we filed, we've got data to substantiate it, we've got the patients to substantiate it, we go to them, and after they have their meltdown about, that's our technology. It's like, well, yeah, for this, but not for that. We've created really great partnerships because we told them that we'd love to work with them as our first choice of a partner, but they'll have to pay us for the development work. They'll have to pay us for the rights to license it, and then they have to pay us for a milestone each time they reach a stage in the regulatory process, and they need to pay us for a royalty going forward. And because we're developing it at our institution, that royalty isn't 1 to 3%, it's 7 to 10%. So once you start talking to them like a business, that's how businesses talk to each other, and it's just refreshing or surprising, I don't know which, but that's the difference. You have to really stand up for who you are and the value that you bring to the relationship.
They're very used to talking to people like that, business to business. They're not used to talking to that for nonprofits. But once they understand who you are, the fact that you can move quickly, that's the other side, is that making it as easy to process, not taking 6 months to sign a contract. All of a sudden it's okay. And they'll actually, in fact, prefer talking to you than talking to an academic if it takes a year to do something. One of the things that we didn't mention is those are the clinical on the clinical side. The revenue that's generated from all the programs goes to the dean of the academic side. And when the CFO, which is what I was up until 3 months ago, I'm not part-time doing just tech transfer. I retired from a hard job. When we do the budget and say, hey, Dean, you got to cut something. Oh, by the way, Jim just brought you in all the money that you got to cut. They're very, very happy because again, it's not like it gets kept by somebody. It goes back to the people that created it.
Great talk. I was jogging around Cedars-Sinai thinking, God, I wish I worked here. Such a fantastic infrastructure you've got. My questions are on a couple of things. So one is, just so I understood it correctly, the 3 offices you have, the tech transfer, the accelerator, and the venture fund, are they all kind of performance managed separately, or is it that you look at the whole, and if the accelerator is losing money, it doesn't matter because you're making money elsewhere? The second question is, how involved do you get in the business development of each of these companies? And do you get to the extent of changing the management team if you think they're not performing, getting involved in parachuting in people when things aren't going right?
So you want the hard question answered. Yeah, it's not all rainbows and unicorns, right? It's so to answer your first question, each unit is budgeted separately. They have their own budget and their own sort of like targets and goals, but they're all my budgets. So I'm the keeper of all those 3. The accelerator example, it is budgeted knowing that the value back that we see is not in dollar return, because those can be captured over in the venture fund, because the venture fund will or will not invest in them. But we know the power of the venture fund, the accelerator, through the employee feedback surveys, where people are saying, oh my God, I just love the accelerator. I decided not to leave because the accelerators opened my eyes to what a terrible thing it would be to become a CEO of a company. Just sort of those sort of values the institution has taken to heart, so I can substantiate a loss on a budget by the ephemeral or the whatever that is. And then your question of how involved do we get? We pick and choose. You sometimes are a little bit more in tune with what the value of that asset is, and if the management and the business development side isn't managed correctly, you see it, it's just such a sad thing to see value dripping away. And then what happens is the company becomes worth less, and then somebody can come in and swoop in and take it, and then you lose it. So what we do is we pick and choose, but it's also important that we use this facility of the pre-spin-off, these business units. I'll create something and call it something, even though it's not something. It's just like, hey, it's the street, that, fill in the blank. Then I can control the management and the development to the point where when we spin it off, we have the right management team. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, because science doesn't always cooperate. So I try to be mindful of I can't control everything, but we do sort of sometimes just let things sink or sail because the investigator is enthused, and okay, if you're enthused, well, prove me wrong. I don't know if that sort of answered your question.
It's just really, with your years of experience now, you're probably getting a good sense with companies about the strengths and whether they're on the right track or whether it's going to burn the cash.
Jim's dealing with people who's a little bit nicer. One level up, and it's like, okay, a mediocre idea with a really good management team is wonderful. An excellent idea with a terrible management team, and I'm sorry to all of the faculty that are in here that have jobs in addition to doing that. I'd prefer to hire somebody that I've known that's done it outside than let now you want them on the scientific, you want them to be actively involved. We've got a royalty sharing program where about 35% of the revenue coming in goes to the inventors. So they are actively involved, but it's to let something fail because you've been trying to be nice. And again, it's Jim knows how to do it a lot better than I do. The other thing is on the issues of the budgets. So Jim has got a 10-year schedule he puts together every year, so that we know when the revenues are going down and when the revenues are going to go back up. So his comp is based upon things that he's projecting. And the projection is always over a longer term as this way now, it's going up. But are we going to say, well, gee, you brought in 40 million, next year's only 33, you got to cut staff? The answer is no, because we've looked at where we're at in the clinical phase, where we're at in the business phase, and we know by year, this is going to come online and this is what the projected revenue is going to be.
I think I've got two questions that are quite different. One was about how you vet ideas and validate them, and you talked about speaking to administrators and doctors. But you don't always get the right answer. It's the Henry Ford problem of if you ask people, they'll give you better horses. So I wonder if there was any strategy or structure. Do you have, special people that are clinicians or operators, but also have an idea about technology? And the second question was just about your history and whether there was a point or maybe a few points where you, reflecting back, you think, well, if that didn't happen, then all this wouldn't exist.
Yeah, good question. So on your first question, I'm assuming you're talking about new technologies that are coming in like through the accelerator.
Exactly.
So for those, I really don't bring things forward unless somebody has made it clear to me that they're looking for that, or it's on their budget cycle, or they have that as a priority, and they told me they want to work with a new company. Because if they want plug and play, they want a Microsoft solution, whatever, then me coming with, oh my God, it's a competitor mic that nobody wants to hear me. So it's really self-selecting, and as you know, people in professional circles are well connected with their peers at all sorts of institutions. So they have this incredible secret society of who knows what and who's who and what's the latest, greatest, and they're very competitive. I mean, they want to be the next, they want to beat out, Harvard. We got to be ahead of Harvard. All that stuff leads to people being well informed. And then, of course, I do my own homework. We want to make sure that the company's management is going to be up for the challenge. I meet with the founders, and are they like bitter rivals and can't stand each other? And I should be CEO. And then I go, wow, you guys have some interesting personal. So there's that side of it always.
You have outside experts you go to get market values and sales, and is anybody doing it better than they are? Who's the competition?
Yeah, we always look at the alternatives, make sure we're not missing something. But I tell you, your faculty partner, they know their stuff. Now, and so then your second question, which I've completely forgotten.
About the points in history.
I
Remember
think,
that drink over?
yeah. Well, so this all started as a journey of, I was brought on the Cedars-Sinai in 1991. I have to say 1990 to make sure people aren't confused about, which century it was. But, and I was brought in specifically to be the go-to person for the faculty. So they had one-stop shopping, protect my intellectual property. I want to sue my neighbor. I mean, whatever. But part of our problem was industry had this idea that we were a nonprofit, so therefore they don't have to pay for our intellectual property. You guys have that issue here, like, oh, you're a nonprofit. Why are you like so demanding? And so it's like, well, it's money. We're a charity and we need money. So I was tasked to enforce our patent rights around the world on this Factor 8. It was patented around the world. Gary got it. And Ed was sort of my sort of business partner I was the mean, angry attorney, and he was the, business, let's do a business deal. And we spent a lot of time together thinking about, drinking about it, just sort of envisioning what an amazing place we work at and what value there was. As you learn what people are stealing from you, you go, wonder what else is being stolen. Because some companies would give the example of, well, we took your cardiac imaging software for free and we're not mad about that. I'm like, oh, that's really, I'm glad you mentioned it. So you realize there's a lot of stuff. So we decided that it would be interesting to see what we could do by looking at the great areas of excellence that industry was already sort of picking our pocket from. And I don't mean all industry is bad, just most of them. And so that's really how it started. So if we didn't do that, I don't think it would have got the financial recognition of, oh my God, because I was finding money. It wasn't like I was doing anything. I was just saying, hey, don't steal that, please. I mean, it was that kind of program. And then it sort of evolved over time with like being there so long. Like I said, cautionary tale, people. If you stay someplace long, they get to know you. The faculty, come to you with their gems. They want you to be a part of their journey. And that, has been a great professional joy of mine of helping smart people realize their dreams of making the world a better place. I, with my humble philosophy degree, may not have been able to do that on my own.
So it's been, again, as Chair said, it's been a journey, a lot of sitting down, talking about issues, talking about how to do this. How do we make it simple? I mean, years ago, we had a problem with industry because we couldn't get our IRB to act quick enough to be able to sign a contract. So I said, hey, Jim, it's not telling anybody, but you can go outside to one of the private ones and get it done in 2 days. Now, we had people scream and yell, but by that time, as Jim was saying, we're making money and they couldn't say anything. But that we kind of did that, and it slowly, everything from the Factor 8 with the idea of, gee, do you have audit clauses in your contracts? Because of course, when the people pay you a check, they're accurate. And he's done audits, and there's been millions of dollars of it. If you sign a contract and the company's going to do something and doesn't do it, are you getting your technology back? Or do they get to hold it forever? We've got one company now that between signing the contract and the works today, their financials have gone way down, and we're going to start pulling that back because we don't want them to wait 5 years.
So I think the major point to make is there's no map. I didn't sit down in 1991 and go, here's what we're going to do in 2023. It really is about learning about yourself and your strengths to start with, and then just sort of like seeing how those play out. But having a vision of what you want to be, what do you want to be when you grow up? I think looking at Art Sheba is a great example. I mean, we all like to be, a powerhouse like them. Learning some of the things that we've done, I think, is a nice way. But anyway.
We have room for one more question. I know Peter had his hand up,
Yes,
and then
hi,
Ed,
yes, sure.
you want to grab them.
It's a quick one.
Workshop. Yeah.
I'm Peter, I'm head of real estate development, so it's great to hear actually that the physical manifestation of your innovation center is an important factor in that. When you talked about collaboration, you didn't mention UCLA, and I see that UCLA Health is setting up their own accelerator called Tequity. So are you guys going to end up competing with them or collaborating with them? And is there a limited pool ultimately of
startups? We're like
startups?
2 miles away, so we're like crosstown rivals. But Cedars-Sinai is the largest residency and medical school training site for the UCLA Medical School. So we're very deep collaborators. All of our faculty have titles as professors at UCLA Medical School because of that. So there's all sorts of interconnectivity, but at the end of the day, we're competitors. The thing that we do collaborate well in is in the tech transfer area, because there's like a revolving door at every hospital. Like somebody's always like being recruited away and then they're back, and now I'm at UCLA and hey, I'm back. And so we're forever coordinating IP, and so their faculty have come to know and love what we do because we're less administrative, but there's something about what a state institution can bring there. So there's strengths and weaknesses and happiness and sadness and bitterness and yeah, and you know, it's the way of life, right?
The LA landscape, it's a huge area. On the map that Jim showed, if you go from the northwest to the southeast, it's 100 miles in the city of Los Angeles. We call ourselves, yeah, there's Chatsworth and there's Sherman, but it's all within like the city of London. So it's huge. 20 million people in that geographic area. There are only two academic medical centers, which in Chicago, New York, there'd be dozens. So the answer is yes, and we're like 2 miles away. Do we compete? Well, we compete for bragging rights, but there's enough patients. If you know the traffic patterns, to get from Cedars to UCLA in the middle of the day is an hour and a half, even though it's only 2 miles. So you basically have your own patient population, and if you showed UCLA's map, they'd be kind of the same. They don't own any of their hospitals, but they've got a lot of doctor practices around.
So I want to try and wrap up because we do want to make a few announcements as well. First, I want to start by thanking you so much for this morning.
This was great.
Incredibly enjoyable, great turnout. So many lessons to take away, but I think, you know, we've always talked about the value of de-risking as well. I love that bit on your slide. There is something in, you know, GSCT supporting or backing that early innovation that does de-risking, not just from the, you know, slapping the logo on the PowerPoint, but also being able to ideate early on, sit with clinical teams. I mean, we've sat with so many clinicians and start to think through, you know, is there a product market fit here? Is it really solving a problem? So that access is incredible, and I think we underestimate how important that de-risking piece is, not just for us, but I think also for investors and others outside. If they see that you've done the hard work early on, I know that at KHP Ventures and with CITI, we do a lot of that early evaluation that we've actually become quite trusted by the venture capitalists who say, well, GCC have looked at this and their doctors have spoken to them and their professors have evaluated it, and they're investing in it, then surely there's something there we want to put together. So that's something really meaningful, and I'm glad that, you know, we're taking the right steps that is sort of parallel to some of the steps that you've done. The other message I think is about agility and not getting confined to your boxes. We're very good at creating boxes, I think, in the NHS and then sticking to it and not wanting to veer off. But, you know, I know in some of the work that we're doing with Adam and Mark and Chris, it's, you know, let's create some guardrails, but let's be open and willing to say it's a range. It's around this much. We're going to give ourselves the flexibility early on to also consider case-by-case basis. So, you know, always be okay, I think, and comfortable with that. The final bit of things, a very important announcement, is that we're very, very fortunate, actually. We signed this a couple months ago, but we're sort of announcing it now, and we'll do something more robust with the press at a later stage. We've actually signed a memorandum of understanding with Cedars-Sinai, which means that we can do a lot of this early collaboration, early ideating, sense checking some of the thoughts and strategic positions that we want to take, but also at a more tactical level, how do we bring a pancreatic, you know, a diagnostic company across the pond? How do we see if something is really just made for the NHS, or does it have a global application? Which I can tell you as an entrepreneur in the NHS is always the thinking, not just that we have, but some of our backers have as well. Is this an NHS product, or is this really solving a bigger global problem? And I think this is going to be a great way for our innovators, our inventors to think through. And as, you know, Adam, Mark, and Chris and myself are thinking through the IP, tech transfer, as Daniel and the team at KHP are thinking about the value creation element, I think we'll be doing a lot together. So we're very, very excited. It's really the first of its kind here in the UK, and we'll do some press, I think, in the coming weeks to months. But it'll really be focused on helping us continue to build out our innovation lifecycle. But over time, perhaps not immediately, but maybe at some point next year, also having our own accelerator program alongside that. And the final thing I would just say before a few housekeeping announcements and key announcements is, there's many of us here at CITI who want to work with you, but, you know, just some kind of names to sort of look out for. You've got Adam, who's leading kind of the incubation innovation side. You've got Chris, who's leading delivery, and how do we translate? It's not just having an idea. How do you actually scale, like the bottom part of how do you take that and scale that? We've got Mark, who's working with Adam and myself around that commercial innovation, their teams. We've got Daniel there, who's co-managing with CITI Ventures. So we're all here to help. Just come reach out to us, talk to us, see how we can sort of help. And they've got brilliant teams. I wish I could name everyone, but we'd be here for sort of another 30 minutes. Final bit is a bit of housekeeping. We've got a city spotlight this Thursday, which is one of our evening webinars. As you know, we launched with Jess Ennis last month, which was great. We had over 100 people log in. I hope we can get that many people logging in again. So this Thursday evening, watch out. We'll send another reminder again. Sarah and Alex will send another reminder out. But please dial in. Please show your support. I think we need to lead by example. If we want to get people across the trust engaged and excited, we have to be logging on and doing that as well. So I'm relying on all of you guys to help make these spotlight evening webinars a success. And the aim of these is not to give some sort of boring sort of kind of a talk about something. It's really about it's really about getting the innovators and inventors themselves to speak. So we've got fantastic speakers from PHP Ventures, from CITI, from GCT, and an inspirational speaker as well. So please log on, and we'd love to see you there. And finally, it's always great to welcome new members of the team and new people to the family. So, Adam, do you want to introduce 2 new members of your team?
Yes, so some points ago, so last week, Becca she joined and helped us with some division. Delighted to welcome Tom and Scott, who's up there, join us as innovation consultants. So they're going to be at the front door, city, speaking to people who have ideas, and also generating innovation. So delighted to have them.
Welcome. Really can't thank you enough. This was just an incredible morning.
No, it was
So
great fun
enthusiastic.
talking about
Everyone
it.
is still here, which is fantastic. They haven't even got to take the call. And I hope this is the first of many such collaborations and many visits for you. And maybe some of us can make a visit to LA at some point as well. I'm sure people are all kind of. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
And I look forward-
Taking copious notes.